Big fluff.
You look mighty parched, partner.
To think, you constitute one of my ancestors.
Rum and coke. How about a lime in that?
I'm vaguely offended by that.
Everybody, on your fucking knees! Now!
Don't.
Stand up!
Aim and shoot. Good girl.
Okay, people.
We got a lot of work to do. We have a symphony to compose.
Hey everybody, I'm Joel Murphy.
And I'm Andy McIntyre.
And this is Silver Linings Playback, the podcast where we watch maligned movies and we find their silver linings.
And it is the month of August. And we decided that the 90s were a weird time where people made bad predictions about the future. And so we're going to watch a bunch of 90s tech movies that were dumb and bad. And this movie, Virtuosity.
I was going to say, I object to a number of things from the start about your characterization of Virtuosity. I refuse to call it dumb or bad. And I also
it's not dumb or bad.
And I also don't think it got that much wrong about, like, it's not right, but I think maybe that is a place to start when talking about it, is like, I think it predicted more than you would expect for a movie like this.
No, I think you're right. And I think there's a lot that it got objectively wrong. Like, we don't have synthezoid robots running around, as far as we know.
I mean, any day now, though. I keep asking for them. Yeah.
But
also Disney World. Pretty sure
Disney
they have
World.
those. Yeah, they have
that's
robots like
that's
that
fair.
serve drinks.
If they're anywhere, they're Disney World.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm losing my train of thought here, but no, this movie isn't. I think this movie is the exception. I think this movie is a good place to start for the month because it kind of sets the bar for a lot of other dumb and bad movies that we're going to watch.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, like, just to set the table, I think, one, obviously it revolves a lot around virtual reality, which was, hot and new and exciting in 95. And virtual reality is still something that we've never quite nailed, but people keep trying. And you can see, that was like Oculus Rift. Like, there's more VR stuff that people actually use now than at the time. You have, I mean, I think it both should get credit for predicting that the UFC would be a big thing while also not understanding what UFC is. Like, it simultaneously is right and very wrong about what UFC
100%.
is. But it is huge now. So, like, they were right about that. I think the Death TV stuff is actually aged pretty well in terms of the villain, sort of co-opting this highly political TV show. I think the thing that to me, when I was watching it this time, that I really am like, they actually really were onto this in a way that's surprising, is the way they explain that Sid 6.7 works is how ChatGPT works. He's basically a large language model. Like, they fed him a bunch of serial killers, which is what they did with Grok. That's how Elon Musk did it. One of them being Hitler, just like Grok. They used all of that data to, like, have Sid learn and evolve, which is actually how, like, those language models work.
That is how generative AI does work. Yeah.
So, like, that actually was impressive to me. Now, there's a lot silly in this movie and a lot that obviously hasn't panned out, but it did better than I thought it would do for a movie from 1995. I think that's where I honestly want to start.
No, I think you're right. And I think that, like, it has enough, like, near misses that you're like, actually, when you take a step back and kind of look at it, you're like, that's closer than they probably thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, too, because I did actually watch. I mean, I guess, I'll give a shout out to Vinegar Syndrome, who I would love if they were watching this and wanted to give us money, because I think there's never been a perfect match more for this podcast than Vinegar Syndrome, which like basically restores movies like this instead of Criterion or like the ones that go for prestigious movies. They just did a dirty work restoration with the like uncut like director's cut of it, which we did dirty work for this show. Like a lot of movies that we're interested in, Vinegar Syndrome is the one like scanning the negatives and being like, no, I want to preserve this movie. So I love them.
It's like, no, let's preserve Porky's.
Yeah, exactly. But they did a release of Virtuosity, which is what I watched, which looks great. But when I was watching it was interesting. They have an interview with the director of this, and he made a good point. The director is Brett Leonard, and he made a good point that like this movie came out 4 years before The Matrix. And while I give him so much credit because he objectively was like, I mean, The Matrix is better. Like they had more money. It looks better. But like, he's fair to point out that it did a lot of things that then The Matrix would go on to get credit for doing, with the like having a VR space and, you know, people existing in the real world in this computer world, and the action beats and the things bleeding from one world into the other world. Like he's not wrong.
No. But there was sort of a subgenre of that happening. A couple of those movies like Strange Days and Existence and things like that we're not going to watch this month because they end up getting good reviews. All
but
kind of did that like.
This came out the same year as Strange Days, too, I think. So it was like there was definitely in the zeitgeist for sure. But
well, it's just the idea of that the internet. Well, this is, I mean, 95, the internet is, I think, past its nascence. Like it's a thing in 95. Yeah. Maybe not as big as it was going to be, but like it was big enough to a point that people had quote unquote lives and shared experiences exclusively on the internet by 95, whether it was chat rooms or user groups or whatever it was. So it wasn't that far fetched to think that there could be this virtual space where, even like it was the very early days of online gaming and LAN parties and things like that. So a lot of that stuff wasn't a huge technological leap to say that would be the next step of like a fully virtual, online, like a literally virtual interactive space.
Right. And I mean, like, obviously I think the thing that people always envisioned then was the idea of an actual space where you either put on the glasses or whatever you put on, where you see a virtual space, which is something that, again, people have worked on, but it's never really like caught on in the mainstream. But I think, again, a thing I would give this movie credit for, and a thing that I think they were kind of stumbling onto, is the idea that we would live our lives in an online space. And I think Sid's desire to be constantly filmed, he's kind of like a influencer. Like he's definitely like an influencer. He's a social media personality. He wants cameras on him. He wants everything he does to be posted. He's very into getting attention and clout,
Yeah, no, he's all about that clout score. I think that's something. And even, I mean, I've never used one of the Oculus Rifts or anything like that, but I've heard they're amazing.
Yeah. No, I'm sure
heard they're like cool as hell.
Yeah. But no, I think all of that stuff, it's interesting. Like 95 is such an interesting time. Because it was sort of people trying to guess what it would look like. And it's, I mean, obviously now you can't imagine a world where people aren't on their phones and online at all times. Like it has integrated. It's just not exactly in the way that people imagined it. But no, I mean, so all of that, like, that's kind of the setup, but we haven't explicitly said it. And I guess to set this movie up, that's all the sort of world that it exists in. But the actual plot of this movie, which is so fun, is that what Sid 6.7, played by Russell Crowe, is it's to train police. They create this generative AI character that they put all the most notorious serial killers in the world into a language learning model that includes Hitler, Mussolini. They're in there. John Wayne Gacy is in there. Ted Bundy.
Eileen Wuornos. Let's rep for the ladies.
Yeah. I also love, a side note, by the way, that they show all these like very, 95 computer graphic heads for each person. And Gacy's has clown makeup. And I loved that touch. But yeah,
the original Juggalo.
Yeah. Whoop whoop. But they all are in there and they've formed Sid, and obviously it's 6.7. This is the model. And the idea of the movie is they're using prisoners to train, to do like work out the bugs in this, VR training thing. And then when one of the prisoners dies, the guy who made Sid knows they're going to shut him down. So he figures out a way to make him be essentially like a robot android thing in the real world. And then,
and I think you're even glossing over a point, is that the guy dies because Sid kills him.
Yeah, Sid figures out a way to kill someone in the VR space. Like he is actually dangerous. Yeah, when you put all the killers of the world into this one,
all the most notorious murderers throughout history,
they figured out a loophole to actually kill a guy in the online space, and
so,
to make him die for real.
Sub question to this: this movie came out in 95. Had it come out, let's say 2005, is OJ on the list?
Ooh, I mean, or real killers, maybe.
It's the people who actually killed Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman. Are they on the list?
It's a good question. Yeah.
Sorry, it's just funny to think that that was just a funny thought in my head. Anyways, but yeah, this because this story, when you boil it down, it is technology gone awry. Like, it's man versus technology in the classic conflict.
Yes.
Looking at the different types of conflicts from your 8th grade lit class. It's man versus technology, and that they create this thing, it gets out of hand. It's the same plot as Jurassic Park, as a lot of these movies. Westworld as the original movie where the robots go crazy.
You're right.
But yeah, and you've got Russell Crowe playing the most evil man alive.
Well, it's also interesting. It came out, around the same time as Jurassic Park. But again, the money, the budget that Jurassic Park had for VFX versus what this movie had and the resources. Like, this movie, I like the effects in it, but it's definitely hamstrung by not having a ton of money.
And one of the things I was reading about it was that because Jurassic Park had so much more money, there's just the approach they could take to the special effects were so different. Because this movie was effectively like wireframe vectors and like vector graphics. So it looked very video gamey.
Yes.
Which kind of worked.
No, I think they leaned into that. Like, I think that they kind of embraced that look because they knew that was what it was going to be. And so they kind of stylized it in a way. I think they sort of smartly just embrace it's not going to look like Jurassic Park. So let's make it
was sort of weird
artificial.
That he needed glass to rebuild himself.
I don't know what that research is or what that's based on, but I do kind of like that. That he's like essentially made of glass and he just absorbs glass around him to rebuild himself. I
think it was probably the like self-replicating nanobots. That's preposterous.
But yeah, and then we really haven't talked about the other part of this, which is that Denzel Washington plays he was a cop who is in prison because there was a notorious killer, like a political sort of celebrity type of murderer named Frank Grimy Grimes, I believe. And
yes, that's right.
But Grimes kills Denzel's family, and then he gets revenge and for killing Grimes and all of his people in a, vigilante style, he ends up in prison. But then he's one of the ones testing the thing, and Sid, they believe he's the only one who can bring him to justice, but also twist Sid, one of the killers inside of him, is Grimes. And so he's taunting.
Of course it is.
I mean, come on. You want it to be. Like, obviously we want it to be Grimes, And it's funny because they're like, well, I mean, it's in there, but how prevalent? And then it's like, well, of course it's, gonna be.
It's the most, it's in fact the number one character. That's his media savviness and all of that.
Yeah, that he's literally just doing the same stuff to taunt Denzel. And yeah, like, so that's the setup that, they're fighting in the real world. The clip at the beginning is when he starts to find public spaces to get cameras on him.
He goes to a nightclub and
yeah.
I honestly thought you were maybe going to use the UFC one, but we'll get to that in a second. No, this movie is like this weird. It's like they took the plots to Terminator 2, Westworld, Demolition Man, and a few others and kind of threw them in a blender to get this.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of Terminator 2 influence. I think that was for sure in the elevator pitch. The words Terminator 2 were said when this was being like made.
Definitely. And, it's a little bit of Frankenstein / Robots Go Wild. And then it's also the plot of Demolition Man, where the only person that can protect them from this next level of villain is a guy that's in prison for being also having formerly been a cop.
Yeah, we've kind of lost that. That was such like a staple of a lot of movies that I remember watching when I was younger. Because it happens in this, it happens in Demolition Man. You get the most ludicrous one is Nick Cage in Con Air, where you get which we did Con Air on the show, but it's so funny that he's just minding his own business, and a bunch of guys are like, hey, come on. Like, and they just like attack him and he defends himself and he ends up in prison. Like, it was always fun to see how they came up with, which I'll give this movie credit. This movie goes pretty hard in like,
it does.
It doesn't let Denzel off easily for like, no, he did a thing that we understand why he did it, but it's not presented in a way that you're cheering for it. It's presented in a way that you're like, yeah, that's bad. Well,
yeah, that like he made the calculated risk to basically accept the collateral damage for catching the bad guy. And yeah, like that makes sense that he's a criminal for that.
Well, and what they do too is they show, there's a reporter and her cameraman who are filming Grimes when he shows up. And at one point, Denzel tells them like, stay down, and he's gunning everyone else down. And then they don't, and they walk up behind him with the camera and he just turns and shoots both of them too. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely like, you're like, yeah, he probably would have ended up in prison for that.
Yeah. And then sort of there's the subplot of there's the criminal psychologist that's helping him to catch the super serial killer Sid 6.7.
Mm-hmm.
And her daughter played by a young Kaley Cuoco.
Yes. Yeah. Who then, because Grimes' family was kidnapped, the end of the movie is that Kaley Cuoco is kidnapped and strapped to a bomb like his family was. And he has to save her like he was unable to save his family. I will say, before we move on too much, probably my biggest maligning of this movie, which I think it's been clear, but I do like this movie quite a bit, is Denzel losing his prison look, which is fantastic.
Oh, I was going to see. Here's the thing is I was going to save that for a silver lining.
I'm just saying, I'm maligning the fact that he loses it. Yeah.
Okay. Denzel with a beard and twists looks fucking badass.
Right? He looks so good in the beginning of this movie.
So fucking cool.
And it's so disappointing that they have to
clean him up.
Yeah, they clean him up to let him out of prison.
It's like Denzel, objectively one of the best actors of all time. I don't think you're ever going to hear people argue it. And also, like, just a cool dude, just vibes, right? This might be the coolest he's ever looked.
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing is it's like that look is so good that you're like, no, don't lose that. Like, give me that, Yeah, it was funny, too, because when I watched the Vinegar Syndrome stuff with Brett Leonard, like, he talked about both because this was a big breakout role for Russell Crowe. And like what he said about Russell Crowe was that a lot of improvisation, like a lot of just him going and you just kind of have to let him go and then rein him in if you need to. But then he was like with Denzel, he just said he was like out of everyone that he's ever worked with as an actor, just understands how he looks on camera, understands what's needed, and just without you telling him anything, just does the perfect take every time. Like
that sounds right.
Yeah, no, Denzel, truly, I think if you on the spot asked me to name the greatest actor of our lifetimes, I think I'd probably say Denzel. Like, I think that sounds right to me.
Yeah, I think it's Denzel and Streep, and I don't think that there's a lot of argument between those two.
No, yeah, I'm a huge fan of him in general, and I like that he does movies like this too. You know,
that's the thing is he doesn't need to do Equalizer 3.
Nope. Should have been called Threequalizer, first of all.
Should have been called Threequalizer, objectively, yes.
Have I
Equalizer
watched
2,
all of
the
the
Z should have been the 2, but
yeah, absolutely. Have I watched all the Equalizer movies? Yes. Do they need to exist? No. Yeah.
And do they need to star Denzel? Also, no.
Absolutely not. Yeah, but yeah, no, of course I keep watching them. Yeah.
But like he does, he also will do he did the film adaptation of Fences, and he's done a ton of great work, playing heroes, playing villains, doing all of it. And, he's amazing. But literally the coolest he's ever looked is with the beard and the twists in the beginning of this movie.
I think that's true. Yeah, I do. I agree.
I saw this movie when it came out.
Same.
And probably hadn't seen it since.
Yeah.
I know
I saw this in the theater. No, I have seen it since, but I definitely saw it in the theater when it came out. I remember going to see it.
It was probably a rental for me after it hit videos. This is a first-rate video store find, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Before we've officially pivoted, but no, I'd forgotten because it's not even the whole first act that he's in with the twists and everything. But what a misstep to change that.
Yeah, no, it's a shame, and I understand it in the VR space why he's cleaned up, and it's funny because they do that to all the prisoners. The guy that does it with him who dies. He has a bunch of tattoos that don't show up. I actually think that's a funny note for the VR space that they make them look more respectable. That's kind of a funny idea. Yeah. But yeah, should have just let him out of prison, keeping that look. That would have been great. The other big maligning that I got to get out of the way that I make sure before we pivot is I think anyone who's listened to this show knows that we are obviously maybe the most pro William Fichtner podcast there is.
Yes.
And criminally underused in this movie.
Yeah, I think he said something like 80% of what he shot didn't make the final cut.
I saw that too, yeah. And it definitely feels like that he probably had a bigger role that they just decided they didn't need, which happens. But I'm going to throw it out there, and no disrespect to the guy who plays the part, who I do think is fine. But I did have that when I was watching this time where it's William Fichtner in 2 scenes, then the guy who's the programmer who creates Sid 6.7 in a lot of scenes, obviously, which makes sense. Fichtner could have been that guy.
Oh, not Tim Blake Nelson.
Right. But couldn't you see Fichtner playing that role?
Well, I think he could also have been the William Forsythe role, too.
Or the William yeah, I think there are roles in this movie that I would have shifted him to instead of guy who works for a company, which I think is his defining characteristic. He's just there to represent the and he doesn't do anything memorable. His most memorable scene is watching the computer monitors get smashed so that the whatever it is, explosive charge in Denzel's head doesn't get set off.
Yeah. No, I agree. Steven Spinella, who was the computer programmer, that could have been Fichtner. William Forsythe could have been Fichtner. Louise Fletcher's role could have been Fichtner. He could have done it all.
Kaley Cuoco could have been Fichtner. Why not?
That would have been a choice.
Imagine that. Imagine the scene where Denzel's just sitting in his car. He's waiting for the psychiatrist to come out, and William Fichtner just knocks on the window and says hey, do you own a gun? What do you think about left-handed pitchers?
Just William Fichtner sitting on the pressure plate in the bomb diffusing scene at the end.
I thought of that one too.
Yeah. No, that criminal underuse of William Fichtner, I think it absolutely deserves to malign this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is this movie is to say it's a good movie is probably incorrect, but it's fun, man.
No, I enjoy this movie, and I will say, if you really pressed me, I would say that maybe the other thing that I would malign is I think this movie does a really great job in the first 2 acts. And I don't think the third act is wrong on paper, but it feels underwhelming, the actual final payoff. Like, it should be great that there's Kaley Cuoco's on this. He's strapped to a bomb and it's ticking clock and the death TV. And it just like, for some reason, doesn't hit as good as like it should on paper. And I can't identify why, but it's like, I think everything feels correct. It just doesn't land.
Well, I think as we start to pivot, and I was sort of wrestling with where I wanted to bring this up, but the villain in this movie is utterly inhuman and utterly irredeemable, but has a human face, which is a very tough like path, you know, and like, I think it does it. It gets it right about 80% of the time. But I think that there's points where it's like, all right, no one's actually that evil. Like this seems a little like something seems off about this. And I think that's the challenge of having like I think it was the right instinct to make the villain as evil as possible with like the backstory that Sid 6.7 has. But at the same time, like sometimes you need to have that like grounding bit that it's sometimes missed. And so that's why I just don't know, like, do we silver line it for how well they nailed it when they got it right? Or is it in the maligning part for like the parts where it, you know, they maybe should have found another way to ground it a little bit, or had maybe Spinella sticks around a little bit longer. The guy, Lindemeyer was the character name, the programmer. Then maybe he's there a little bit to like give there a bit more grounding or something. Who knows? But it's so that's, I think this is the most liminal analysis of the movie that maybe we've ever done for this podcast.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a tough needle to thread. And I think when we're about to pivot, like I like Sid 6.7 so much in this movie, but it is like, should I? You know? Yeah.
And a lot of it is Russell Crowe's charisma. But yeah, it is. They kind of painted themselves in a corner, and I think did a good job of not ruining the movie because of it.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm ready if you are.
Pivot it up, baby.
All right.
Pivot!
I want to start with Russell Crowe.
Yes.
Like you could tell this dude was going to be a star with this movie.
No, it like this is his first big American film. Like he was, definitely like starting to break out in Australia. Was
like every
here.
Australian, he was probably in Neighbours.
Yeah, I'm sure. Sure. He came here. This was his first big blockbuster American movie, and the dude was ready. And I mean, I watched this with Molly, and she sincerely was like, he should have won an Academy Award for this. Like, it's like easily her favorite performance that he's given. It's one of mine for sure. Like, I love Russell Crowe so much anyway, but like he elevates this movie so much with every choice he makes. He makes Sid so memorable. The cadence of his voice, I love, like the way that he sounds. Like he sounds kind of weirdly robotic and hypnotic. Like it's
he like, because I remember the trailers for this movie when it was being advertised on TV, and I'm like, I don't know who that dude is, but I'm in. More than Denzel being in the movie, more than anything else. More than Louise Fletcher, you know, all the kids in the mid 90s loved Louise Fletcher.
Oh yeah, big Fletch heads.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, we were both Fletch heads going way back.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but yeah, no, he is just so charismatic as a villain, and arguably he was so good in this. It's probably why people have such a hard time rooting for him as a hero in movies going forward.
Well, it's funny too that sort of the trajectory of both him and Denzel is like they did this movie together, and then in pretty short time they were then found themselves competing against each other. For Academy
two back-to-back
Awards.
years for Oscars.
Yeah, where it's like you had Denzel doing Training Day and what was the other one he was nominated for? But then Russell Crowe with one for Gladiator, then A Beautiful Mind is when he lost to Denzel.
Yeah, and then there was another year when neither of them won, where I think Russell Crowe was nominated for The Informant.
Yeah.
And Denzel with any number of his other great movies. And they flipped protagonist and antagonist for American Gangster.
That's true. Yeah. But yeah, it's like you can tell he's going to be a breakout star. I think like it's interesting because when I was trying to pick a clip, it doesn't quite land as well just for a clip in the opening. But a scene that I love with Russell Crowe that's a little bit of a quieter scene is when he breaks Denzel out of the prison transport. And that's when we get the flashback of Denzel killing Grimes and all the people. And then as soon as he wakes up to see his prison transport van has stopped moving. The guys in the front are dead. And then Russell Crowe pops into frame and goes, "How's the family? Still dead. That sucks." And then proceeds to basically tell him, like, I just broke you out of prison and you have this thing in your head and it's going to explode and you're going to die. So should you be going after me or should you be going after them? And then he says, I remember this line because I love the line. He goes,
You're the only guy on my dance card, Parker.
and then like he just like leaves. And I want to give a shout out to this. We should talk about the music too. Perfect needle drop of White Discussion by Live as Denzel gets out of the back of the transport, gets his gun. Like, it's a perfect end of Act 2.
It is,
like, set up the third act. Like, you could honestly teach it in a screenwriting class how perfect the stakes are established in that scene. And it is like both of them just like this is their face-to-face scene in the real world, establishing the stakes. It's, you know, it's great. It's Batman and the Joker in The Dark Knight in the interrogation scene. It's everything you want, hero and villain face-to-face before the final battle. It's great.
Yeah. No, it's Russell Crowe is so good in this. Just, and it's like the exact right amount of scenery chewing and what confidence for a new on the scene actor to just go for it like that. Yeah.
And it is interesting to hear the director talk about like, yeah, I just let him go and like he did all this improvisation and stuff. But yeah, I like how weird Sid is that like he wants to make a symphony and he's like making people scream and remixing it into keyboard sounds and stuff. And there's so much like just little great stuff when he looks at the one guy in the purple suit and then they cut to that guy is in his underwear and Russell Crowe is just holding the purple suit. And then another great needle drop. We get Staying Alive with him in that suit, just strutting. No, he's great in every scene. Yeah, and I think it works because he's literally a computer AI villain, so he doesn't have to be human, and he's all of the worst serial killers in the world into one. So never has there been more of a carte blanche to go play this as big as you want.
You know, and he absolutely, like, I mean, he understood the assignment, essentially. Like, no, he just nails every bit. He is, and that, I think that's probably where, like, what I was talking about before we officially pivoted. But it's because it's in the hands of Russell Crowe that this completely inhuman character works.
Yeah, no,
most actors couldn't do that.
No, it would be bad with the wrong actor. Like someone who didn't understand how to play this character and how to make it work. It would just feel silly and wrong. No, he's great. Yeah, what a breakout role. What a like truly star-making performance that I guarantee people saw and it led to what came next for him.
Oh, he got probably his next 10 roles off the back of this.
Yeah. And obviously we already in the first half, we talked about Denzel, but always can never enough talk about how great of an actor I think Denzel is. But I also want to specifically say, because you hear those stories about like the reason Tommy Lee Jones is so ridiculous in Batman Forever is because he saw what Jim Carrey was doing and kind of had that like, I won't be upstaged by Jim Carrey, so I'll play Two-Face. Even like the fact that Denzel has the confidence and just like status to know, okay, Russell Crowe is going to play this and I'm going to still just stay exactly in this grounded Denzel Washington, like just fantastic acting. I don't need to go big. I don't need to match what he's doing. It'll contrast my performance and his.
Yeah, no, Denzel is playing this like this isn't a ridiculous sci-fi movie where he's a, disgraced cop that is the last resort of desperate people to catch the villain that only he can catch. He's playing it like the most serious version of that in the way that only Denzel can, and it works.
Yeah.
He's like, because he understands how absurd the movie is that he's in, but also plays it so serious that it's just, God, he's so good.
Right. No, because yeah, right. Finally, we can say it. But no, his character doesn't think this world is silly. And he's, again, like, you created a character whose family is dead, who's in prison for murdering their murderer. That guy's not going to be fun and silly and like a big, like, let's have shootouts with the villain. Like, he's going to be pretty grounded and sad the whole movie.
Nor is he going to be dropping action movie one-liners or anything like that. Like, he's going to play gritty and real. And again, someone trying to do that's not Denzel, it flops so hard.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I do want to give a shout out because it is that thing of like, I mean, you and I both do improv, and it's like, you understand that with improv is like, if someone's playing a big character, you don't want to match them unless you're doing like a peas in the pod thing. But in general, you let them be the big silly character, and you have to be the contrast to that to set them up for success.
To be silly and to be over the top and to be ridiculous. Yeah.
And that's definitely what's happening. I also do, because we mentioned her, I do want to give a shout out to Kaley Cuoco, who has a truly great scene with Denzel that we talked about before. But
that car scene rules.
It's good. And it is the only scene we really get to establish this lady has a kid. We care about this kid. We do not want this kid to be blown up by Sid. It's all has to be accomplished in a very quick scene to just be like, yeah, here she is, and it works. Like, it definitely, she's fun and charming, and Denzel again is doing his Denzel, I'm charmed by this kid, like thing. And it, like, I don't know, it's a really lovely small scene that works
in a bunch of other ridiculous scenes.
Yeah. Also, and since I teed it up, but yeah, and we've kind of talked about it, like, you get those needle drops of music that are really great. You also get a lot of like house music, like kind of, again, with the Matrix parallels, like this is also equating VR spaces and online spaces with like techno and house music and stuff. And
the electronica of the mid to late 90s is on full display here.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I really like all of that. The music really works for me, like in this, like, I think that stuff's good. I like the weird music that Russell Crowe is making throughout the movie.
Yeah, that's a weird blend of classical and horrific screams. And
yeah, I also love all the little scenes where he's like the one scene where he's just looking at all the televisions right before he goes to the UFC thing. And he's just turning all the televisions to himself. And one guy keeps turning the thing back, and he just keeps clocking that one thing is wrong. We also, I mean, we should talk about the UFC stuff.
We should talk about the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
What they put in the movie is not what the UFC was at the time, and we're not remotely what it is now.
No, Michael Buffer is there, which is fun.
Which is accurate.
We do see real UFC people. Ken Shamrock can be seen.
Yeah, Ken Shamrock makes a little cameo.
Yeah, but weirdly, this movie thinks that the UFC is multiple fights happening at the same time in a ring while music is played, and everyone in the audience is kind of choreographed fist pumping and chanting to the music.
Yeah, and while the UFC of 1995 would be fairly unrecognizable to the UFC of today, that wasn't it.
No, I mean, my memory of UFC, which I didn't watch a lot of like 90s UFC before they really did come in and, kind of make the rules and changes that would make it what it is I just remember a lot of really long matches where a lot of rest holds happened.
Yeah. No, because there weren't weight classes, and it was a lot of guys that were just essentially bar fighters. There were a lot more Tank Abbotts than there were George St. Pierre's or Conor McGregor's, or just, pure fighting machines. And yeah, there'd be guys throwing bombs that would then gas out and just try to like grapple, but that would be super lazy. And then some dude would get kicked in the face. And yeah, they eventually figured out how to make it a sport.
Yeah. And add
I think
the rounds and the structure to it.
Yeah, because I think the human cockfighting argument is fairly apt for the early days of UFC.
Yes.
And nowadays it's different and
yes,
much more legitimate. And that's why it is such a huge business in 2025.
Right. And that's the thing is like, I do still, I find it charming how wrong it is, like it's fun to see, but too, like, yeah, I do give them credit for, again, recognizing that something was happening with UFC that felt like it might be something big in the future.
Yeah. It is amusing that the futurism of it was, no, UFC needs more chaos and less rules.
Maybe they were right. Maybe UFC should have had 6 fights happening at the same time while Michael Buffer did over the PA commentary and house music played. Maybe that was the correct path for UFC.
So Dana White, if you're listening, hear me out. Next UFC 278 or whatever it is coming up. All the fights happen at once.
Mm-hmm.
Last person standing.
Dana White, one of the most important political figures of 2025. It's a weird world that we live in.
Yeah. Maybe I wish we lived in the Virtuosity world.
It seems fun.
I mean, you can take AI programs and turn them into real people, and it goes about as well as you'd expect.
Why did the guy start his AI to real world glass-based animatronics with a snake?
Not a lot of joints.
Yes. It seems like not where I would start,
Yeah, I mean, a snake is arguably the simplest vertebrate creature. Arguably.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe that's why. But, and I guess like, well, we can do a snake, we can do a whole human.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't like kind of go up the evolutionary chain or anything like that. They didn't go like snake, maybe something with arms and legs.
Well, in the movie's defense, I do think it explains as well, which is that happened because the guy who was in charge of that division was horny. That's the reason. Well, shout out also to Sheila 3 point whatever that she is.
3.2.
3.2, who is a great ancillary character, who's just clearly not well developed. Does feel very chat body, that like she's just always saying vaguely like erotic things in the background.
Yeah.
It's a fun bit with her.
No, it is for sure.
Yeah. And I like, again, that to me, understands the internet and how technology is advanced. All technology is advanced through pornography. So like
that's an objectively true statement.
Absolutely. That's how you trick that guy into unknowingly creating Sid 6.7 in the real world.
Yeah. You say, oh, it's going to be a real version of Sheila 3.2. Sign me up.
Yep.
Says the creepy guy from the Mummy movie.
That guy had a niche for sure.
He did. He knew you know what? He's like, you need a slime ball henchman. I'm your guy.
Yeah. This is a small silver lining, but I like that Denzel had a robot arm.
Yeah, it was a weird thing that like made sense. I think it would have been funnier if not funnier, but I think it would have been maybe more clever had when he woke up from the first virtual reality scene, he didn't have his arm. And then when they let him go, they give him the robot arm.
Right. Yeah. Like another contrast between like in the VR space, you know, you have an arm and yeah, we took it away from you. Yeah, that would have been fun. Also, man, can I just say in the things that aged really well in 2025, and I'm just going to state this, like, you know, we try not to be too political on the show, but the scene where Denzel gets back to the prison and is led into the wrong space, and a guy who's a white nationalist comes out, does a Hail Hitler, and then gets the shit kicked out of him by Denzel Washington, who then taunts the rest of the prison while that guy is just knocked out at his feet. Really fun to watch now.
Yeah, that felt good.
Yeah.
I also want to shout out that actor. His name is Gordon Jennison Noyce.
Noyce.
Noyce. That's spelled Noice. Noyce.
Noyce.
Noyce. Which Noyce. And the character's name was Big Red, and that was fun. But
Yeah,
yes,
but
that also, like, that felt very real, and it's nice to see fascists get beat up.
yeah, I liked it. Like, no notes. I would watch 1,000 movies where Denzel Washington just like completely beat the hell out of a bunch of fascists and then taunted their
I would
friends.
watch 76-year-old Denzel beating up fascists. I would watch 47-year-old Denzel. All of it.
You know, I mean, I'm excited for Highest and Lowest, you know, Spike Lee's adaptation of the great Kurosawa film High and Low. I don't remember any fascists getting beat up in the original Kurosawa film, but I think they could fit it in there somewhere.
Listen, Spike, if you're listening,
And we know you
there's
are.
still time.
Yeah.
Include it.
Yeah, I would love it if Spike Lee was listening to this because he's a big Virtuosity fan. He loves
He's just-
movies. So
He
it's
does
possible.
love movies.
And he loves
They're-
Denzel.
And yeah, so there's a non-zero chance that he has Virtuosity as a Google alert. So when this goes live, Spike Lee,
Look, my personal headcanon is that Spike Lee would have watched this movie when it came out and that he and Denzel have talked about it at some point in their decades-long collaboration together. Like, that's
Yeah.
come up.
yeah. And then it makes sense that they were an American Gangster together.
See? That's what. How else would he have known to put them together? Come on. Come on, everybody.
Listen, it's too coincidental not to be true.
Yeah. Yeah. How else would he know who Russell Crowe is?
Yeah, how else would he in 2004 have any idea who Russell Crowe is?
Yeah, no, for sure. But
Yeah, this
yeah,
movie's fun. Give it a watch. It's a fun time capsule for without being, because I think this is set. Even though it came out in 95, it's set in like 1999 or 2000.
it's definitely a near future. Like it's supposed to be, a not too distant future from 95
Yeah,
for
but-
sure.
This movie is maybe the best example of 90s futurism, of which there was a huge subgenre. That like it feels so 90s for the 90s futurism of it, if that makes sense.
Right. And when we were talking about this month, this was number one on the list. Like this is how
This
we
was the
wanted
top
to,
of the list, yes.
Yeah,
For 90s
sure.
weird technology is bad movies.
Yeah, we'll
And
see how the rest
Virtuosity
of the
was-
month. Yeah.
I think we're starting on a high, given what we've decided to watch for the rest of the month. I think it's going to be maybe better episodes, but harder watches.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
So stay tuned till next week.
Because you guys are the only ones on my dance card.
Silver Linings Playback is a production of HoboTrashcan.com. If you enjoyed the show, please rate or review it on Apple Podcasts. Hear more great shows on the Peak Sloth Podcast Network.